Hey, it's the Right Rican, and today I'm going to talk about AOC and some things that she does, and people on that, those socialist types just annoy me with. So I'm gonna put up this picture of something she said on Twitter, and here it goes. Heat in winter and running water should not be privileged commodities for the wealthy. In a modern society, they should be rights. And we will have to fight for these rights as climate change gets worse. That means standing up to climate crisis profiteers to protect the public. Yeah, so here's my pet peeve. And when they say everything's a right, they go healthcare is a right, housing's a right, food's a right. They go through all of that stuff, and they just don't really. I think they don't understand what rights is. You don't have a right to something that what the government gives you is not a right. That's the whole thing. It's like freedom of speech is not a right given to us by the government. Freedom to assemble is not given to us by the government. A right to self-defense or self-preservation, that's not a right given to us by government. It's a right given to us by God. And it's basically a right is something that the government can't take away from you. It's not something the government gives to you. Yes, there's things that we could agree that the government gives us, but that doesn't make it a right. So, saying that we have a right to health care, no, we don't have a right to slavery. That's what basically, when you're saying the government could mandate another person giving you, mandating that a doctor has to take care of you, that's slavery. Yes, let's say they're going to get a paycheck for it, but the fact that it's forced upon them means that that's slavery. It's a form of slavery. Saying that you have a right to a home, you could go and, what's a home? You could get a tent. You have a right to that tent. You have a right to shelter. I mean, everything could be a right then, so we have to, that's what annoys me about it. It's like, no, you don't have a right to electricity. You don't have a right to food. You have a right, you have a right to get it for yourself. You don't have a right to have the government give it to you. If you're waiting for the government to do that stuff for you, then you're SOL. I'm just going to use the abbreviation right there. You're just out of luck. Before COVID, I've always been sort of a prepper type of guy. I've always made sure I have canned foods, water. The government recommends 3 days, which I don't think is enough. I think you should have anywhere between 1 to 4 weeks, depending where you live. Where I live, sometimes the power could go out for a week at a time, just depending on how bad of an ice storm we get. So, you need to know where you live and what type of emergencies to prepare for. So here, for example, it gets cold. We could lose power in the winter. And I have wood, I have coal to keep my house warm. So like that, if we do lose power, we don't freeze. Also, at the same time, I also have guns. And it's for self-protection, but also all my supplies come in an emergency, in a crisis. They're valuable, not just my food. My food becomes valuable. Yes, it becomes a commodity because people are going to want it. But I need to be able to protect what's mine. I need to be able to protect my family. And that's the whole thing. That's the whole point of the Second Amendment. It's not about, it's about protection from tyranny from the government, but it's also protection from, like I said, there's a bad emergency. Um, we go into lawlessness. I mean, look at the stuff that went on this summer. I mean, look at the riots. That's why a bunch of first-time gun buyers went out there and started buying guns, and that's why people on the left started buying guns, because they saw the craziness that could happen and how the government can break down, and you have to fend for yourself. So, same thing. Like I'll keep going about, since it's about in particular, I was talking about AOC. It's kind of like also with her whole political stunt and raising money for Texas. That was an attack on Ted Cruz. She started raising money after it came out that the whole thing about Ted Cruz flying to Cancun. It's like, oh, how can I capitalize on making him look bad? So like that, we could win Texas. That's what that was about. That wasn't really about helping people. If it was about helping people, it would have been done before the whole Ted Cruz fiasco. And it wasn't, I shouldn't say optics fiasco. Because that's all it was. There's not much Ted Cruz could do. He could have, he could have did fundraisers. He could have did that all from Cancun. Could have did that online. Just to me, it was just bad optics. It was, he should have just probably sent his family and stood behind and try to get stuff done that way. Just because, like I said, we live in an age, especially as a Republican, you have to be careful, because you see all the stuff that Democrats done, and it never blows up like this. You have the lockdowns in California, and when Newsom went to eat in that fancy restaurant, it was on the news for a day, not even, maybe for like a news segment, and that's it. Now it's 24, because they need to put bad news about Republicans. Of course, it's constant. It's constant in the news, because they want to, they want to be able to cover up other things. And so that's the way it works. That's the media's hustle. That's how they get people to, they're not objective. They're not objective. They don't report scandals the same. They don't report the news the same. And then they want to be the arbiters of what's truth. But they're not objective. And in truth, everybody has their bias. I have my bias, but I don't pretend to not have my bias. I know where my blind spots are. I know where I fall on issues. But the media plays that game with us, and they tell us, no, just listen to us. We're telling you, objective news. No, they're not. No, they're not. So let's remember that when people like AOC are talking about rights. These are the same people that, you have a right to health care, you have a right to food, you have a right to your home, but you don't have a right to protect your home. That's what infuriates me. Oh, you don't have a right to a gun to protect your house. Especially, look, when it comes to gun issues, it's basically a rural versus urban issue. And when you're out in a rural area, you need guns, period. It's not only about protection from people, but especially when you live in a rural area, you'll better understand, you got wild animals that live around you. Like where I live, I get bears. So, a bear could attack you at any given moment. They could, to be rough, rummaging through your garbage, and you go to throw out your garbage. And you need to be careful. It's just something, and anyone in any rural area will know this. City people don't understand. The worst animals they worry about is rats, and I hate rats. Growing up in New York City, I know how big they get. So, yeah. So just be careful when people tell you what what rights they think you should have, because really what they're trying to do is they're trying to buy your vote. You have a right to health care, they're trying to buy your vote. You have a right to food, they're trying to buy your vote. You have a right to shelter, you have a right to a living wage, all this stuff. They're just buying your vote. That's all they're doing. They're using other people's money to buy your vote. That's why I always say it's easier to be a Democrat than it is to be a Republican, conservative, libertarian, because we have to tell you, no, it's not. We're trying to tell you we can't use your money to buy your vote. We have to use your money to balance the budget. We have to pay back our debt because, but people fall for that. It's a right. It's a right. It's not. You have a right to protect yourself. You have a right. You have a right to food, but you have to fend for yourself to get your food. So whether you're going to the supermarket and stocking up your shelves, whether you're buying, ready to eat meals to protect your food security, whether you're buying water, whether you're collecting rainwater, any of the stuff that you're doing for your right, but it's your right to do it yourself. You don't have a right for the government to tell the government to give it to you by taking it from other people. That's not a right. That's theft. So, all right, I'll leave that there. I hope you enjoy my video. If you do, please like and subscribe to my content. With that being said, have a good one.